Markets losing critical support at the 200 moving average on Friday as geopolitical tensions continue to drive this very headline driven market. A lot of them coming over the weekend as well, which we'll talk about, and more. My name's Aaron from Carnivore Trades, working with Jason here from Wall Street for Main Street. This is our show, This Week in Charts, and let's get into it here this week. So S&P did close below the prior low set back in November at about 65.21. We did close just above the 6,500 handle on the cash S&P, and we also closed below the 200-day for the second consecutive day. So sellers finally making some damage here, and you can see from the 28th of January, it's been just about 2 months as of this week anyway, since the high to the low, but really only about 5% or so for the most part off of the high. So very kind of slow correction up until really the last 3 days of this week, where we finally started to see that the sellers start to pick up and attack this lower range and make a run at support. There's a lot of headlines I want to cover here, and it is it is a little exhausting to try and keep up with that, and that's why we use the charts here to kind of just get through a lot of that noise. But if you're not following here, we'll take you through kind of a timeline of events here. So Friday, we did get basically for the most part, like a taco tweet from Trump saying he's considering ending the war with Iran. And this was post FOMC. So FOMC was Wednesday, market sold off. No rate cut was priced in, but we didn't really get much from Powell. And, the market was already starting to kind of inch lower at that point anyway. So markets kind of followed through to the downside. We'll talk about the interest rates in a minute, but we did get a little bit of a taco, and I want to show you the futures here. So they came way off the lows. So by the end of the day, we'll look at it was the cash S&P. So we had a little bounce, right? And then this tweet that I just mentioned a minute ago came out after the close, and the futures rallied quite a bit. And if we look at SPY, we put on the after hours, the futures only trade till 6, the SPY trades till 8. They actually rallied back quite a bit, and almost got back to the flat line for the day here. Now, why I find that significant is because the timing of that tweet coming after the futures closed, and because Friday was quarterly, March expiry, and if you know anything about your cycles, your time, things of that nature, there's a lot, oftentimes turning points around those expiries, as lots of hedges get to roll over or they just get closed out completely. It's a big quarterly expiry, and sometimes you can look for turns around there. So we got a bounce after hours, and it's just very, very, and I'm using air quotes here, convenient, right, that we got that taco tweet after the options market had closed out. Then, not long afterwards, I believe it was Saturday morning, or it might have been just a few hours later, but we got this, and it was essentially Trump walking that back, saying okay, 48-hour ultimatum, they need to open the strait, otherwise we're going to hit them hard. Lindsey Graham got really excited, and then you can see here right on that Bitcoin, this is the best we have, that did sell off in response to that. You can see weekend Wall Street did come down as well. This is US tech there. Again, I don't love this. There's when the news broke. I don't love weekend Wall Street. It's very thin, but sometimes it's worth looking at. And then recently, we just got a few hours ago, NATO, kind of, there was a few headlines about this here, pushing back on that, saying that they're trying to be diplomatic and whatnot, and get this taken care of. So we'll see where the futures open here. Again, look, there's a lot of noise going on right now, and I've said this many times before, and I always say this whenever there's geopolitical stuff, war, anything like that. There's no point in paying attention to every headline. There's going to be buildings that get bombed. Okay, it happens. There's going to be tankers that get blown up. You're not going to find any alpha, gluing into the news wire. But it is a headline-driven market, and the liquidity is low, so we can see some sensitivity, and that can cause outside moves, or outsized moves rather. With that being said, we do have a cycle date. I don't, talk about cycles as much as I used to for just alpha reasons, but That was last Friday, and we did start to bounce. So we'll see if the market is able to follow through on that. And just so you know that with cycles, it's not always like, oh, it has to happen on the exact day. Sometimes there's like a 3 to 5 day window, but we'll see if that does, give us some sort of a tradable bounce here. Now that we have kind of reached a point here where there's just a lot of panic, and we're starting to see sentiment get there. So AAII, bears about 52%. That's the highest reading since May of 2025, which was just off of the lows. NAAIM, so fund managers, at their lowest long level since also April, May of 2025. So again, very, very significant. And fear greed hitting 15 on Friday. So we are starting to see that. I know we've seen these indicators, we've talked about them, kind of creep up over the last week. They haven't really resulted in a pivot. They don't always result in a pivot right away. You do have we talked about the McClellan, so we have a divergence there as well. But we are seeing that the market start to get really panicked here. I want to preface that, so I want to annotate what I'm saying there with more of what I said last week, which is that when these indicators start to get to those extremes, it doesn't mean that you're going to, that doesn't mean that price-wise you're close to a low. It usually means more like time-wise. And the way that bear moves work, if you're familiar, you can see we could be 3 days away from a low, right? And we close at 648. We could go to 610 in 3 days very quickly, right? So that doesn't mean that price-wise you're close, but it does indicate that time-wise we are likely close to some sort of a tradable bounce. So again, we're still kind of looking for that here. It's been a little bit of a grind down, and I know we were looking for a rebound the last couple of weeks. We didn't quite get there. And the sell-off, like I said a minute ago, has been very benign. It's been, if you look at, from here to just before we started to sell off, it's about 5 to 5.5% in just under 2 months, right? And if you look at any of the last year, this right here was 7% in about 2.5 weeks. So from there to just to the 200, the carry trade move. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit more. The carry trade move in 2024. This was I think on the futures it was like 12 or 15%, and again in about 3 weeks. Even this move in April here, April, it was a 3 weeks move, and this is like 8 or 9%. Whereas we just saw 6.5 in just under 2 months, and it's taken a while. I think now it's been like 7 or so, but it's taken a while to realize this downside here. So interesting stuff. We'll see. Again, obviously the 200 on any rebound would be your big area to clear on the daily. If the rubber band does start to break and we start to see a larger move to the downside, I would look at, again, just around 6, I'm just going to say 615 right now. 610 is an obvious area. That was a previous all-time high. If it gets past 610, I think you probably test maybe even 590. So that is possible here. But it's really hard to see. I have to see where we open tomorrow morning to get a better idea. But right now, should be a lot of fun here trading this week. Now, as far as interest rates, we'll flip back over here. You can see Bitcoin, so I just mentioned that. That is, it's down over the weekend, but it's not. We'll discover Bitcoin right now. It's backed off this week, but it isn't, it still has room for a higher low here. So in many ways, it has led the equity markets a little bit. Again, that could change, if we puke out here. This is not a pattern of strength here for the most part, but it has made higher lows and higher highs, which the market cannot say, right? There's February 6th when we bottomed, and if you look at the spiders, again, we flip back over, we topped like a week before that, right? So Bitcoin has technically outperformed, believe it or not. It doesn't feel like it, but it has. So maybe that's a small positive here. And while I'm thinking about it, credit spreads here. HYG did rally on Thursday. It did come back in on Friday. And I'm just talking about credit spreads because everybody likes to use Bitcoin as an indicator of liquidity. You can see correlation here starting to unpin, which is essentially the dispersion index in the market, and it's generally a pretty good measure of liquidity as well. So we're starting to get that. I should say, if you're not familiar, it's more inverse. The higher it is, the worse the liquidity is. But I'm digressing here, but I wanted to find the credit spread. There we go. So credit spreads, yeah, inching up a little bit. Sorry, not to get too sidetracked, but interest rates here. This is sort of the danger right now, and I'm a little. I guess I should say I'm not surprised, but I would have thought that this would have stayed a little softer, a little bit longer. I guess it makes sense with the price of oil staying elevated. But you can see right now, there's no chance of a Fed cut. Why? Because the 2-year yield is 30 basis points higher than effective Fed funds. If anything, if this continues, we're going to have to look at hikes. And that's not me talking. That's just what's happened every single time. I mean, I'm just following history here. This is just what happens. So unless this comes back down sharply, that's a thing. My guess is it will. I think this yield spike may be a little short-lived right now, but it wouldn't shock me if it, I'm not going to bet on that right now. But you can see the 30-year up here as well. But my guess is that we will start to see that really affect, like these prices here, they will start to affect the economy here shortly. And one of the things I can do to show you that is if we look at crude futures. So if we look at the curve here, we're looking at the current contract at 98. Now, everyone knows the summer driving months, oil tends to top out in June, July. They're actually, we have lower prices here. So we're looking at a higher front month contract where the back month here, June, July, they should be higher, and they're not. And this is in a period where there's high demand, and even September is going down. So the market here, the oil market here is pricing in a lower demand, even during a area where the demand should be high. You can argue and say that the market's wrong, but I'm just telling you that's where it's pricing in right now. And so I'm not necessarily in the energy crisis camp. There's people who've talked about that, like we're a couple of weeks away from a crisis. I'm not going to say you're wrong. It certainly could be possible. I wouldn't rule anything out here. I've seen a lot in the market, and especially after 2020, we've seen everything, right? But I would think that the big money and smart money would be front running that if that was the case, and they're currently not. So we'll see what happens with the yields. I do think that TLT could be a play, cyclical play this year, but it hasn't quite done that yet. And I did tell you guys 91 would be resistance, and it got up there a few weeks ago, very close, and came back in. I have not really touched it since. But anyway, I digress. Keeping a long video here today because we have a lot to cover. I won't go through every sector though. But you can see the Qs did close below that weekly trend line and the 200. It did hold the pivot low from November though. And we also had, we had relative strength from SMH, and that's still been the case here, at least for now. Software continued to pull back here. There is still room for a higher low in software, though. So I do think you can, if the market can find its footing this week, software will see some sort of a zigzag rally before topping out again. Possibly even up to this trend line here. Right, so that could be a target there. Transports also held up, they kind of, you can make a case you're bear flagging above the 100-day. But if we look at the price of oil here, and I guess it is kind of inverse, but, oil has not backed off. And the transports haven't really, gone down much. 95 right now on oil is a big point of control. And I'm just going to flip into an hourly here. You can see ever since that breakdown, we've just traded through that. Below 95 with conviction will pop the stock market and will help stocks rally. It'll help calm down fears. But back above 100, there is, I would say, upside to 110 right now. And obviously that would not be good for the market. A couple other things I'll just cover here. Financials. XLF was green on Friday. KRE was flat, essentially. So a lot has been made about private credit lately, and for good reason. But they did manage to hang on Friday, so we'll see how that does early next week. So a lot going on here. Precious metals here, they sold off. Again, I think it's an indication of a little bit of risk off here. They typically are risk off, kind of, not really, what am I trying to say? They tend to be a safety play. But the kind of parabolic move, the momentum here, added a lot of risk into them, right? So a lot of leverage got into there. And if the market's going down, you're seeing deleveraging across the board, and that's why you're seeing underperformance in gold, if you ask me. So I would say 4150 to 4200 if this keeps going down. Any sort of rebound, you want to clear that little short-term trend line here, and looks like I messed this up again. But you want to clear this trend line. If I can draw it in properly, there we go. Sorry, but we want to clear that trend line there and get back above the 100-day, which is pretty much at the same spot. And then you can try to retest, 48.75, maybe 5,000 for silver futures. Down 2.6. This does look vulnerable down to 60 right now on the 200-day. I do want to point out, I don't have it in front of me. I apologize, but I believe it was zero hedge. I just remember this. But outflows on GLD for the month were at some sort of I don't want to say a record, but it was an all-time longest ever since several years or something like that. I don't have it. I apologize. You'll just have to take my word for it. But it was very high. It was extremely high, and that can indicate that there's it's probably oversold. So just do with that what you will. But I would say down here, if we got down here this week down to that 200-day, I'd probably be a buyer for sure. Even just for a swing trade. That to me is. I would have to take a stab, and then you got support down at 36.50 as well. But just throwing that out there. If I can find that, maybe I'll put it in the comments when I get a chance. And I talked about palladium going to 1400. It got there on Friday. Platinum didn't quite get to 18. Copper did back off as well. Be careful with this. We closed below that breakout bar low this week. So copper in rough shape right now. But anyway, should be interesting here. A lot of headlines out there. Very good for day trading. Swing trading has been a little bit more difficult, but now that we have some volatility back in the market here, and speaking of volatility, VIX did not really make a new high to that panic move. So we'll see how that changes things here next week. But yeah, right now the futures, they hung on to this low. Or excuse me, we got to adjust this here. Okay, so that is adjusted. So S&P in the after hours hung on to the low, but by the close it was below that, which is really what we care about. But we can still see those moves. We still see some potential upside volatility as well. First area here is that 200-day, and it coincides with all these pivots. I would just say 66.50, a daily close above that to really start to get more of a squeeze going. But right now, if that's not the case, we would see, we could see significant downside pretty quickly, and usually that does lead to a washout one way or the other, which provides opportunity. So, anyways, guys, I'll wrap it up here before I start talking in circles here. But you guys don't forget to find Jason on Patreon. You can find me on carnivoretrades.com as well. And we'll see you guys all next week.